Tatsat. Oh, in the YouTube, I don't see it coming. Maybe it'll come in a minute. Let's check. What is the issue? He's saying excellent connection, but I don't see it. Perhaps, yeah, it'll appear now. Okay. So we were doing the last sutra which we're doing is Danam Atmajnanam. Diyate iti Danam Atmajnanam Anena Antevasibhyo Diyate. So this is, we were the previous couple of sutras. I'm just, because we had a small gap, I'm just mentioning it without going into the details. So when a person is established at that ultimate level of consciousness, but never forget that this is Anavopaya. He is not at the ultimate level of that Bhairavapatti, but all these are Stutyartha, that one person can scale very high levels of meditative self-awareness and equanimity. And what are the benefits and what are the privileges that are associated with this sort of a spiritual ascent or spiritual rise in this sadhaka. So the sutra number 25 mentioned that Siva Tulya Jayate, so that person, that sadhaka, becomes comparable to Shiva Tulya until his body is still there, because obviously the frame, this body-mind complex, will put a few demands on us, and we have to live with those demands. And as soon as his body falls, he becomes purely Siva, means he's not going to come back. So there is a hint that, because we are discussing the third chapter, so even in Anavopaya, where he's doing Abhyasa, he's at a lower level of sadhana, with serious hard work, he can scale the greatest height of becoming comparable to Lord Shiva. Do we take it literally? Do we take that as a promise? No. The commentators have already explained to us that, like Bhagavan Krishna tells Arjuna, that look here, if you do this karma yoga and you surrender all the karma phalas to me, and you can get moksha. That is krama mukti. Is not going to get moksha, that moksha bhava is ultimately sakshat moksha. No, he'll not get sakshat mukti or moksha, but that is only through Sankhya Yoga, through vichara, through meditation, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. However, when he is doing Karma Yoga, Nishkamateya, Ishwararpana Vidya, then there is Antakarana Shodhana, then there is Vairagya. He takes Vividesa Sannyasa, goes to the Guru and learns the texts and meditates on the Vachika Artha, and then goes beyond that and gets the essence of it and meditates on it, removes all doubts, any faulty thinking, all prejudices. Then he is reunited with the ultimate being, Parameshwara, and he doesn't exist. He's right there. Similarly, here in the Sambhavapaya, we have to understand, and other commentators have explained this, that what the Shastrakar is hinting is that he starts with the Anavopaya and very quickly graduates to the Saktopaya and the Bhairavopaya, and these are all captured here, telling us that the Anavopaya is not a restricted field of sadhana, even if it might appear to be the third, the initial leg of your sadhana. This is not the end of the universe. In fact, you can reach the ultimate level of self-awareness, you call it that Shiva Vyapti, through this method, through these practices. And then he says Sarira Vrittir Vratam. And that level, he is holding the body in itself is a sadhana. It doesn't, he's Sambhavapaya, a lot of sadhanas we have already discussed, but when this aspirant ascends to the highest plane, he is no more trying to do any practice anymore. He remaining in his body itself is greatest sadhana for him. Why? Because he has become a medium for that divine energy to manifest, and he becomes comparable to Lord Shiva. Externally, he may just continue to look like a human being because Shiva is only one. Shastra nowhere rules out that there will be about, say, 25 people who are very advanced sadhakas, and all they become Sarira Vrittir Vratam, that stage they reach. How can you have 25 Sivas? That's not possible. All these sutras are hinting at is that the individual restrictions and limitations we associate generally with a human mind. That sort of a human mind is no more in existence. It has dropped the limitations. It has dropped all the attributes we associate with the functioning of a human mind. And then Sarira Vrittir Vratam, he's still in the human body, by the way. He doesn't have a mind, but he operates using the mind, but he's all the time established in the self, in that universal consciousness. What kind of chanting he would do? Because we are doing Anavopaya. In Anavopaya, that Ghatastapana Adi, Murti Puja, all these are there. Jantra Stapana, Ghatastapana, doing meditation, mantra japa, all that. Then the answer is, look here. You have to understand this fundamental point, that for him, whatever he speaks, any communication, is a manifestation of that divine energy, because he's all the time invested in that Shiva consciousness. He's a Vidhyatma. There are no rules for him, because by his very nature, as Bhagavad Gita says, is Sarva Bhuta Hiti Rataha. Similarly, here, Katha Japaha, whatever he says, all communication, whatever words he mentions, that becomes japa. And there is a beautiful couplet that we read in that context, that do you know that the superior occult powers who visit us, they look for people who are not carrying any signage as a sadhu or as a guru, as a monk, as a siddha, with those marks, vermilion marks or sandalwood marks in the head, and then carrying kamandal and dress and the staff of Sankaracharya, stuff like that. No, they are not looking for these people with external manifestation of that divinity, which is largely of a Vividisa kind for most of the people. They quickly recognize who is the one who is already established. And we were mentioning about Nigamanand and Thakur Ramakrishna Paramahans. They were not wearing saffron clothes, but they were the greatest of saints. The Ramana Maharshi didn't wear saffron clothes. He had never taken any formal sannyasa from anybody. But he was one of the greatest jnanis. Aham eva parohangshaha sivaha paramakaranam. He's mentioning that in the evam vidasya asya aham eva parohangshaha sivaha paramakaranam. And we had discussed about the Ajapa Gayatri. His very act of breathing in and out, that itself keeps him connected with the Parama Shiva. And then we had already done the commentaries, so we are not visiting them again. But the next one, which is most important for is that what sort of thing he is able to gift you if you visit him. What is he going to give you? Is he going to give you some prasadam, allow you to stay in his lovely guest house or the ashram that he has built? None of these. There are a lot of stories about these jnanis, that how there are a lot of these stories. Once there was one famous monk who was one of the very detached. He was all the time in Dhrida Vairagya. He was famous as Chote Maharaj, Harihara Tirtha. This is said by all his disciples, and there's no documentary evidence except in the anecdote shared by his disciples. But I have heard from direct disciples as to how, with a couple of his disciples, he was walking up the Himalayas from Kailash Ashram, and he suddenly, because those days you had a lot of tigers there, and suddenly he saw one tiger, and he stopped there. He folded his hands and he said, "I'm sorry, King of the Jungle, we have come into your territory without your permission. We have intruded into your territory. Forgive us. We're going to go back from here." He quietly returned and walked down. We have heard that actually these animals, wild animals, do not necessarily attack everyone, but they do attack people who are panicking or trying to run away. But There was none of these, and he and his two disciples were spared by the tiger, and that's kind of captured by them. And there are many such stories about different people who are in that state. Therefore, he's saying that's how a person sort of emanates by his very presence that beauty, that blissful presence of knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Not intellectual knowledge. Knowledge is that self awareness, this abiding in the self. If that be the nature of consciousness in which he is established, he emanates a luminosity by his very presence, not by, of course, you look at the physical being, but then what matters is that consciousness in which he abides. And that sort of spreads, is very infectious, and it can transform people's lives. You remember that famous guy who went to Ramana Maharshi. He says that it was maybe a few intense seconds of a stare into my eyes. It transformed my life, and he could transform a lot of people by just deeply looking into people's eyes. That is how he was transforming his energy. And that is that kind of a beauty of the very secretive and very mysterious process of transfer of energy is captured here. It's not about textual exposition, happens in modern satsangs, but a deeper connection between the preceptor and his disciple, or people who are going to them. And there are a lot of conditions when that happens. It doesn't happen with everybody. Like everybody doesn't recognize which is a piece of diamond. Many might think it's a piece of glass, or many might confuse a piece of glass as diamond. Similarly, the Atmagyani doesn't appear as an Atmagyani to everybody. It's only a few who can recognize. So they have some opening, some qualification. And at the same time, the Atmagyani has the desire to pass on that energy to the other people. Let's look at the commentary, which is very interesting here. Dhanam Atmagyanam. They do give, and you know the story about Lord Buddha. When some of his students were sort of asking him, you have these 8, main rules for good conduct, Shilata, and one of them is Dhanam. And what kind of a mendicant give? What does he have? He actually lives on Dhanam. He lives on Viksha. Then I think it's reported that Lord Buddha sort of smiled and said, you have the greatest gift to give away to other people. Give your peaceful, loving, compassionate smile. That is also an act of charity. That's also giving away something. And similarly here, the knowledge and love and bliss are representative of one reality called Satchidananda Swarupa, that is Atmagyana, when you have that Atmagyana. Therefore, he's saying, Diyate iti dhanam Atmagyanam anena antevasibhyo diyate. So, diyate word has been interpreted by different commentators in different ways. And we'll look at it. Same diyate he gives, but there are different dhatus, roots are different. And therefore, they mean different things. One of them is, he says, diyate he gives. Iti dhanam, that's dhanam. Atmagyanam anena antavasibhyaha diyate. So he gives it to them and then also protects them. It's kind of an insurance policy, Guru's grace. Now, let's look at the Kshemaraja commentary. We had just done the artham of this particular sutra. We hadn't gone into the details, which we'll do today. Idrik japa vrato asya charyamaha prokta chaitanya rupasya atmanaha yad jnanam sakshatkaraha. This particular person for whom his continuation in the physical seat itself is brata, no separate anusthana, no separate austerities or anything. He has completed the course. And then for whom conversation is chanting, for him, whatever gives is actually self-awareness. Atmana yad jnanam sakshatkaraha. It presupposes that we are not talking about a professor of Saiva Darshana. We are not talking about a professor of Vedanta. There are quite a few. You can get them at dime a dozen these days. So you have a lot of people who are experts in the textual exposition of the truth. They have worked very hard. They know the Sanskrit language and they give very good, interesting talks. And few of them are very hugely popular on the social media. But what he's saying, Atmana yad jnanam sakshatkara. That is what he introduces. Sakshatkara. This is a self-realized guy. Is not accomplished in the textual truth, but somebody who is really face to face with himself, who has realized himself. Tat asya danam, and that sakshatkara itself, that realization, he may be poorer by his appearance, by his economic status, by his health condition, he may be a very poor person. But his sakshatkara is his wealth because it's infinite, limitless bliss that he has achieved. Diyate paripurna swarupam. So he gives what? Paripurna swarum. That is that Atmajnana he gives. And then there is another interpretation. Diyate means khandyate vishwabhedaha. Diyate can also mean in chopping in Sanskrit. And then what does he chop? He's saying diyate. So he sort of splits into parts. He cuts it asunder. What is that? Vishwabhedaha. Duality. Duality of a dualistic understanding of the world. That is what he gives. Tat asya danam, and that is what is diyate paripurna swarupam, diyate khandyate vishwabhedaha. He cuts into pieces our prejudiced way of looking at the world as real, and we are saying we are stuck here, I'm not happy, I have this problem, I have that problem. He's saying, yeah, this is your imagination. The jnana and jnana and jnata are one reality. You are just constantly creating this false illusion about it. Then he says again, another same, dhanam word, he's sort of referring to another. There are different verb roots in Sanskrit. Dayate sodhyate maya swarupam. Dayate, dhanam, dayatiti dhanam. What is that? Dayati means it cleanses, it washes off. Cleanses what? Maya swarupam. It's like we wash our utensils after a dinner, your plates and everything, you have to clean them. And you leave them for hours, then the stain of the oil that you may have used for preparing a lot of spicy Indian recipes will stick to that particular container or the plate or the cup, whatever bowl on which you're serving it. Therefore, you need to clean it up. So it cleans. Sodhyate maya swarupam. Only thing is Atma Swarupa is true. What do you mean by Sodhyate maya swarupam? It essentially says that it enables analysis in the student who, through proper self-reflection, is able to remove layers and layers of presumed understanding of reality. These are presumptions that we often consider to be real, and he enables. And what? First, one simple thing that you would also mark, that many of the thoughts that we entertain about reality, about anyone, about ourselves, the mind keeps thinking from morning to evening, right? 24 hours. If you have time and you ever pick up that beautiful book by Nisarganath Dutt, beautiful book in which Maharaj says that you are just creating your own worlds through your thoughts. The thoughts are unstable. Mind is unstable. And how can you be stable by thinking about a particular thing or looking for any object which you are thinking would make you happy, which is external to you? Could be a house, car, relation, whatever you touch. That's one form of a new association, which means it would have all uncertainties which are typical of any process, whether it's a degree or a job or a relationship, anything which is an association, which is an event, which is a process, will have ups and downs, and you'd have pros and cons, and you cannot ever presume you are fully blissful or happy. Where you can be happy is when you turn to the self. And then the thoughts appear and disappear, but you are able to distinguish yourself from these thoughts which appear and disappear in you. You're not going to terminate your body or hang yourself or not marry, not have children, and this and that. But his technique was to constantly tell yourself that many of these thoughts which are attacking me do not have any substance. When he told us, when Nisranath Maharaj told this, it made sense. And a lot of people read that book. They don't necessarily get it, even though the words are same, because that guru is not present. That's one, issue with, like, mantras you can read from the books where you can go and chanting. You may not get the desired result unless that has been handed over to you by a person who has actually practiced and perfected that mantra. Diyate, another interpretation, rakshyate labha shivatma swabhavasya anena iti kritva. Diyate means rakshyate, he saves, he protects. What? Labha. And what is that? Shivatma swabhavasya. So just imagine that, we have heard it in children, and you can also remember it. And somebody would say that my son was a very good boy, and then I had to switch jobs. So I left that city and I came to the new place, and my son had to go to another school, and he got spoiled. Why? Because he developed new friends and he got into new circles and he picked up new habits, and then he wasn't able to sit with his books anymore with that amount of seriousness which he had earlier. You must have heard the story. It happens with very young children. They're very impressionable, and whatever they associate with, they evaluate. Now, what is he saying here? Just imagine that a sadhaka, after a satsang or his personal sadhana, when he attains a certain intermediate stage which is higher, which is a springboard for him to ascend further high in his consciousness, he needs to be protected. He needs some kind of protection, divine protection, grace. And he's saying, diyate, rakshyate, labha shivatma swabhavasya anena iti kritva. So by staying, stabilizing, that happens when you go and sit in front of a self-realized person. I have myself asked myself this question: what would be the gain of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, who was a walking encyclopedia, who would go and sit with Thakur? For what? What are you going to get out of it? Somebody like Kshemaraja Sen, towering intellectual of those days in Calcutta, going and sitting with Thakur to gain what? Why was he going there? He hadn't gone to even school. What did he have in him? And they found wisdom in whatever advice he was giving. And where from it was coming? Was it coming from some kind of research work in a library where he read all the books? No, not so. The power of his communication lied in his simplicity, and the power of his simplicity did lie in his unequivocal, free from any confusion, unison, in a sense that he was almost same as Ma Kali, the Supreme Divine. It was not an effort in trying to be identified or pretending to be identified, which sadhaks will do in the beginning. He was already there. That's how whatever he spoke all the time sort of smelled. He would also give this example that if you, say, for example, pick a friendship with a person from a fisher family, he'll smell like fish. You'll be friends with a person who produces perfumes, he smells. So similarly, the sadhaka who is going there, his fragrance as somebody on the path to Sivahood is protected. Therefore, diyate means rakshyate, labha, shivatma. Athasa diyate iti danam, again, atma jnanam eva anena antavasilya diyate taduktam. Then he quotes from another all the people who was with it, how he gives it. And then, there are a lot of beautiful commentaries in English on Shiva Sutra. A lot of people have interpreted in different ways, but the key thing which is understood here is that the Atma Jnana, or communication of divine secrets, is generally at two levels. One is what we are doing right now. We are doing satsang. So, I just look at different commentaries and I talk to you, you get it. But then imagine that a person who is given to this particular thing, he has that intense desire to realize what's written here. And then you have, just imagine Bhatta Kalata sitting there and telling it to you. That's a different thing. It's not a Vedanta who is discussing Shiva Sutra. It's a person who is already there. So how is he communicating? He's saying these gurus, and depends on the, I mean, everybody, there's one key thing that we need to understand. Everybody says, is he self-realized or he's not self-realized? As if self-realized is a certain milestone you have to reach there. So he's self-realized and then he has his problems. Why? Self-realization is a process of evolution of the consciousness until it reaches that supreme unity. And everybody is realized. All of you are realized. All of us are realized. But there are different intermediate stages where you're jumping from one level to the other. Right? Now, what he's trying to say is, one is the intellectual dissemination of the textual secrets. These are important. How will you do? That's why Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. The first step is Shravana. So you need to understand what's written there. Shravana is a must. Shravana doesn't happen if you do not go to, what do they say? Shrotriya Brahmanishta. He must be adept in the texts and he must be established in the truth. The person goes, Pariksha Lokan, he checks. If I go to Swargalaga, what am I going to get? If I stay in Martilaga, what am I going to get? Then he says, no, I am going to go and learn the truth. Then he goes to a guru, an acharya, who is Shrotriya and Brahmanishta. They are interpreted in different ways. Who is that guy? If he's Shrotriya, Brahmanishta, Thakur may not qualify, Ramana Maharshi may not qualify because they haven't read the texts. So that's why they say Acharya Vanaveda, the one who is the one who gets self-realization. They say the one who has a good Acharya who can explain to him. That's a very important step, but there are two sides to that communication. One is by explaining the sacred text, the inner meanings, which to me is very, very important, because otherwise you'll be sort of wandering in darkness, not knowing where to go. Even if you're walking, you do not know if you're going in the right direction. As mentioned in the Varadaraja Upanishad, that there was this guy from Afghanistan, or Gandhara. He comes and there are some dacoits or robbers or bootleggers. They get hold of him and tie his legs and hands. They don't kill him and then leave him and go with all his wealth. And then he's making some noise, and then there is a kind person, an acharya, who comes and sort of cuts asunder his chains and releases him, and then says, "Where are you from?" "I'm from Gandhara." That person says, "You have to go in the western direction, northwestern direction." Let's imagine it happened in Punjab or Haryana. Then he says, "You have to go in the northwestern direction." But that's all he tells him. He doesn't accompany him. Then he keeps on asking others on the way, and he reaches Gandhara back. That is how, Sangara Pujyapada has explained that in Brihadaranya Upanishad. So you will have a lot of people who will come and show you the direction to move forward. Acharya Vanaveda. But this is just one category of communication. The other category is a direct transfer of power and energy, which is given a lot of importance in the occult tradition of Trikadarshana. There is a bit of these occult thing here about energy transfer, what they call Saktipata. You can look at it as something which is manipulative, and imagine this is a psychological game where you're kind of being brainwashed and all kinds of things you might mention. but this is authoritatively, this is not given a lot of importance in the Vedantic tradition. In the traditional Vedantic tradition, it's Sravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. The Acharya will explain you the sacred text, and then you have to undergo the training under his tutelage, but the journey is yours. You have to constantly meditate on the meaning of the words and you move forward. But here the word anugraha, shaktipatha, anugraha, Ishwara anugraha. And shaktipatha, that's how there is a lot of upasana, which is an integral part of this journey, which at the ultimate level is almost like Vedantic journey, which is vichara garvaka, vichara pradhana. But in the beginning, you have to do a lot of upasana. And here what he's saying, darsanas parsanadvapi vidatat bhavasagarat, darshanat sparshanadvavi. The guru or the self-realized acharya might just softly look into your eyes. Sparsanadvapi, he may touch you. They generally don't touch with their hands. Some of them may touch you with their staff, the danda they have. They might touch you like in Ramakrishna Mission when you take mantra diksha. They have mother's relic and they will have a kind of a metal box and they touch that box on your back, on your head. That is Shaktipat, the transfer of energy. Darshana sparshanadvapi bitatat bhavasagarat. They will liberate you. Jnana Atma Jnanam, they liberate you. How? They're saying that, look, this bhavasagara is all expansive. It doesn't set you free wherever you go. It changes you. No? And in that whirlpool, you are captured and you want to get out of that whirlpool. He's saying, Bitatat Bhavasagara Tarayasyanti Yogindraha. These Yogindra Purushas, these are like emperors in the domain of spiritual sadhana. These Yogindras, Tarayasyanti, they'll come and rescue you out of the whirlpool of this Bhavasagara, the ocean of pain and pleasure in the samsara. Kulachara pratisthitaha. And you saw this is very important. Kulachara word is mentioned because in the Kaula Tantra, you can say Bhamachara generally, like if you mention Kularnava Tantra and stuff like that. They're traditional. But Kulachara essentially means some person who is established in the tradition of that occult science. Kulachara pratisthitaha. Like Prabhu Shankaracharya, Bhagavad Pada, Puja Pada, also sort of says that however intelligent or intellectually sharp a student or an acharya may be, don't even go close to him if he's not a paramparaved. Tajyameva. You should dismiss whatever he says. And that's why we have a lot of strong orthodoxy which are sort of built into a tradition where there is a resistance to even listen to or engage with intellectually somebody who says something which is contrary to what you believe in. That's a very narrow interpretation of it. To my mind, the real interpretation of it is he able to grasp what was the import of the sacred text? Or is he somebody who is intellectually misinterpreting it because he is a smart intellectual guy? He's well educated. He has a PhD in philosophy. He knows Sanskrit. He was abroad. He has taught in universities. And then he can twist and turn and deliver something to you which neither represents the spirit nor is going to lead you to the destination which the text says you should reach in life. It can give you something else, some intellectual confoundment, some bewilderment. Therefore, there's a warning. Therefore, he's saying, Kulachar Pratishtitaha, in order to underline and emphasize that we need to know what is the pedigree and what is the tradition of this self-realization, iti. This is how it sort of comes to an end. Quickly, the last one, which all the time we read, Evam Vidhasya Japapratakarinaha Yoginaha Swarupa Sakshatkara Upastitim Aha. His seer presence is actually a kind of introduction to the self-realization which he embodies. Dhanam Atma Jnanam. This is the sutra. Purvakta Chaitanya Rupasya Sakhyat Karanam. Sakhyat Karanam Atmanaha. What is saying that earlier, all that we have, Suvatulya Jayate, all the sutras we have done, Atmanaha Yat Jnanam Asti, that Atma Jnana, what we are talking about through these previous sutras, Tadeva Asya Dhanam Vartate. In this particular person, Japakatha, his very existence is the greatest spiritual sadhana he's undergoing, and he's saying that the moment he sort of stands with you, he transforms that blissfulness. Diyate paripurnam para ahantatmaka swarupam. What does he give you? Para ahanta swarupam. What is ahanta? Minus. Is a good thing? Ego, not a very good thing. But what is he saying here? Para ahanta. You know, even Thakur used to mention it, and Sri Aurobindo has also mentioned it in Ishavasya Upanishad. So you can have two kinds of egos. You can, of course, going by the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you can have, like for example, you look at the 17th chapter. So you can have, Asuric ego. You can have Daivi ego. You can have Tamasic ego. You can have Rajasic ego. You can have Sattvic ego. All of them have some ego. They're making use of it. The person who resolves to read and complete a large spiritual text, or complete one Purasharan, or complete a Padayatra, some Vrata, what is driving him? Some kind of a resolution. And ego is there. But that is Sattvic ego. Then you have Rajasic ego, I'm going to give it back to him. And then you have Tamasic ego, we're lazy, I'm not interested to do, what do you get out of it? So here what he's trying to say is para ahantatmaka swarupam. You have that ahamriti, ahamidam, but what am I? Shivoham. That I, which sort of includes everything associated with the whole universe. So you have Vishwamaya and Vishwotirna Bhava, both. You are everywhere. Sariram, Drishyam, Drishyam, Sariram. This whole Vishwa is you, that kind of a thing is mentioning Parang Tatmaka Swarupam Athava. That is one interpretation. What is the other one? He saying Athava. Diyate Nirakriyate Vishwarupa Prithivyadi Shivantam. Prithivyadi Shivantam. They have 36 tattvas starting with Prithvi Tattva and ultimately Shakti and Shiva Tattva. All these intermediate stages of manifestation. What is his Nirakriyate? It helps you to negate, means to overcome, means you transcend all these levels of realities in order to establish yourself in supreme reality, the Paramashiva Bhava. Vishwarupa Prithivyadi Shivantam, ending with Shiva. Sat Chakra Sat Tringsat Tattva Rupa Bhedaha. So what is that? Sat Tringsat, 36. These are the Vedas, intermediate stages, Bhedaha. Then another way of interpreting. Kingva, okay, let's look at it another way. Kingva Dayate Swadhyate, it cleans, it purifies, it cleanses. What is it? Rupam Atmiyam Maya Rupam. So there you have Daim Sodhane. That Danam, one noun is being made out of several verbal roots. Here is Daim Shodhane. So Dayate Shodhyate Rupam Atmiyam Maya Surupam Danam. So it cleanses that Maya Rupa, that self-constructed, a kind of an imaginative superimposition of certain idea of who we are on our Swarupa, which is our essential nature, which is without name and form, which is pure consciousness. Or another way, Atacha Diyate Rakshate, or it protects you. Pratyavigyadaha Shivatma Swaswarupata Swatma Jnanam Anuttara Tattvam Eva Anupampaya. Diyate Rakshate Prativigyadaha. So you have one glimpse of that reality. You have that prativigya, recognition of the self. Then you have that splash, it happens. And the guru comes, maybe slaps your back, and sometimes they can manipulate it. And it's not a joke. These are real things. These people who practice Kundalini Yoga, who are adepts and And they first check what's your state, and they can do it to you. I've gone through this. They can just put their fingers in your eyes, they can hold you like this, and you sit. But they first find out what has been your life in the last, at least in the last, how many weeks? Roughly about, I would say, 30 weeks. Life, 25, 30 weeks, they will ask you, how have you lived your life in 30 weeks? And if you have practiced celibacy and you are doing some japa or leading a very pure life, and you go to them, and then they'll make you sit there, and they can just touch you and you can see things. Are they manipulating any nerves in your eyes? You can think like that. But I don't think so. They do genuinely do things. You might question it from a scientific point of view that what I saw was an illusion. Because you ought to be talking, you are not in meditation. In Kundalini, he would say, you move there and pin there, this point, and what do you see? The Guru keeps asking. It's real. It's real. It's not imaginary. And they will keep checking how your consciousness is moving, and there'll be some nervous changes. You might get excited, the body may throb, so there'll be people to help you when that Kundalini thing happens. Now, here what he's trying to say, dayate swadyate rupam atmyam diyate rakhyate prativijnatah shivatma. Then if you have that splash of recognition, or you have that realization, he helps you to elongate that. Shivatma swasurupata swatma jnanam anuttara tattvam eva. Anuttara means there's nothing beyond that swarupa. Why do they do it? Why should they do it at all? Anukampaya, out of compassion, out of love. Why should they love? Do they have any intention to get anything? No. If they see an adhikari, a good acharya, a good guru, he sees somebody may have some problem, but then he sees some opportunity. There is some, there is some opening towards divinity. Then it's his duty. He's duty bound to come and help, offer whatever. If he doesn't follow it, that's different. But he gives him a chance or her a chance. Pratyavijnatah shivatma swasurupata swatmagyanam anuttara tattvam eva anukampaya. Then swa antevasibhya, all the people who are staying with him, his students, bhyaha tad anena eva diyate iti danam, because through this he gives yathoktam darsanas parsanad vapi vidadat bhavasagarat taraishanti yogindraha kulachara pratisthitaha. That is how it comes to an end. Then next. Then there is a description in the next sutra for the same person, Sivatulya Jayate. This sutra is saying, what does it mean to be there, whose sheer presence is an act of benediction? So now just look at this last couple of lines of the last commentary. Parama Advaita Bhavanayam, in the Parama Advaita Bhavana, Samarudha Yoga Nishta Purushaha, the person who is established in a state of meditation, in that particular Parama Advaita Bhavanayam, not in Dvaita Bhavanayam. Advaita means complete non-dual consciousness. Tattva Jigyasanaha Praninaha. And then they want, what is the meaning of this Tattva? Bhagavan in Bhagavad Gita had clarified to us. I have 4 kinds of aspirants. Those who are arthas, in trouble, so they are taking my name. They are arthatis. They want something. They want to have a house and a car, rich or whatever. They want to be in power. Then there are jigyasus. They want to know who am I. Spiritual aspirants. And then there are jnanis. Jnanis are not knowers. Jnanis are non-different from me. Because jnana here is atmic jnana. He is using the word jigyasus. Yoga nishta purushaha means they have already done some sadhana. Tattva jigyasunha praninaha raga dvesadi aparimaya dukkhadmaga sansara sagarat. So first thing they are doing some sadhana. They have a sincere, genuine desire to establish themselves in that atmajnana, self-awareness. However, there is some prarabdha. That is the problem, which is true about all of us who are doing sadhana. What the prarabdha will do to us, depending on past papa punya and certain inherited conditions and tendencies. In Buddhist language, I love that word. Conditions and tendencies. They determine how our mind behaves, how we move forward in sadhana. Therefore, he's saying praninaha raga dvesadi aparimeya. uncountable manifestations of the mind appearing in different responses, emotional, intellectual, physical, because of raga and dvesha, attraction and aversion based on past sanskara. And then what? Dukkhatmaka sansara sagara. Where does that happen? In this bhava sagara, in this ocean of sansara, sansarana, birth, death. Swatma jnana pradanena achirad eva tarayanti. So, Atma Jnanam Danam. So, that fellow through Saktipata, what he does is he knows that you have done a lot of sadhana and still you are wandering around. And this guru, this Siva Tulya guru, comes and what does he do? Achira Deva. Achira doesn't take much time, it transforms you quickly. Then, of course, it depends on how you sort of follow up on that. Purvoktam Samyak Bratam Japam Charyacha Palayan. This particular guru who follows the brata. Brata means what? Just holding the body, right? That is his vritti, sarira vritti. That is his brata. Japa, katha, satsang. And then charya, this is what dhyanam atma jnanam palayan, nirantaram, parama shiva aradhana, tatpara, shila, yogi jana, ayam eva vastutaha. That kind of a parama shiva aradhana para, the person who is all the time doing this propitiation and meditation and upasana of the Paramashiva Tattva, Shila, Yogi Jana, Ayam Eva Vastutaha, and that kind of a guy who is all the time abiding in the self, Vastutaha, Sisyasya, Antaha, Swaswarupa Pratyavijnapako Bhavati iti Pratipadyate. And then that sort of a person who is all the time abiding in that Shiva Tattva, he is the one who is going to liberate you. A student who has the qualification and who has the intense aspiration to be there. Then only he can get liberated. That's what he's meaning. What is the sutra? Yo vipasto gyahetuscha. Yo abipasto. I would make sense, try to make sense of each and every word. It's a very simple sutra, but loaded one. Yaha abhipastho. What is this abhipastha? There are different ways in which they have tried to make sense of it. Jyahetusha. So, Bhattakalata, the Brittikara, what does he say? Pasumatra varga maheshwaryadi chakre prabhutvena stitaha yaha saha jnana sakti hetuhu upadeshyan jnana saktya bodhayitum kshamaha cha sabdo yarthe. What does he say? He's saying, look, you remember this earlier sutra which we have already dealt with, Siva Tulya Jayate. I'll just, I think, the verse number 9, Magna Swachite, no. Yeah, just verse number 19, you remember, Kavargadishu Maheshwaryadhyaha Pashumataraha. You have the Kavarga, Chavarga, Tavarga, Tavarga, Pavarga. You know, all these 9 Vargas are there, or to share. And then he said, these are of two types because Swaras and Vyanjanas, the Shiva energies and the Shakti energies, Vyanjana Shakti, Shiva Swaras, or he said all these 9, and then each Varga has one Adhishtatri Devata. One of them is Maheshwari. That is how he's saying Maheshwaradhyaha Pasumataraha. They are Pasumatas. Means with the game of this language, we are using this language. So if you do Sakti Chandra Sandhana, you know the secrets, then obviously this whole world cannot perturb you, cannot frighten you. Just imagine there is an insurance agent or there is a marketing agent, and there are a lot of these idiots who are sort of calling you up every day in India. I don't know about other parts of the world, where they are fraudsters, they trap you through their words, and you fall a victim, then they take away your money. They're using this language to trap us. The one who knows what this language is all about, what is this communication all about, he doesn't fall a victim. That is what happens here. If we know these Varna Matrikas, All these, you have these shabdas and vakyas, whatever you hear, they are shabdatmika and they are varnatmika, and varnas are sakyatmika and shakti shivatmika. So then we can meditate and return to the self. A very deep secret that I'm mentioning, and that is how we do different kind of mantra chanting to reconnect, to recover our purity, our essence. Then recognize, reunite. So if you keep that in mind and then you come here, yo bhivastu gya hetusha, what is he saying? Pasu matra varga maheshwaradi chakre. You have the Shakti chakras, circles of energies in these different vargas, ka varga, cha varga, ta varga, call it. And Pasu Matri Vargas, who are they? They are the mothers of whom? The Pasus. Who are these people? Pasu Agyanis. They can be easily misled. And these Varnamatrikas play games with the people who are not open to the secrets of Lord Shiva. They try to pull you down. It's the same Shiva energy. There is a particular threshold level below which Maya starts playing his games. So he's saying, Yo Abhipasto. Now, the person who has sort of mastered these Shakti chakras is the boss there. That means what? He has overcome the movements of the mind, the Indriya vrittis, and he is not easily perturbed, all the time established in that pure consciousness. That kind of a guy, Gya Hetuscha, Gya, if you say, is Jnana Shakti, he becomes the causal factor for igniting that Jnana Shakti in you. That would be a very coherent and simple interpretation, but there are others to interpret it in different ways, and we'll try to touch upon their ways of understanding it. So first, let's do the last one. And then, because he sort of also touches upon the Kshemaraja commentary, so it's easy for us to return. And so, Srimad Acharya Krishnananda Sagara, I'm always forgetting his name, the Krishnananda Sagara, let's look at his commentary. Purvokta Samyak Bratam Japam Charyaja Palayan Nirantaram Paramashivaradhana Tatpara Shila Yogi Jana Ayam Eva Vastutaha Sisyasya Anta Swaswarupa Prativijnapako Bhavati Pratipadyate. He is the one who can enable you to remember your Swarupa, who is doing all the sadhanas and all the time in that Shiva Bhava. Yo vipasto gyahetusha. If you change it, if you do the sandhi, it will be yaha avipastaha saha jnana hetusha. The one who is established in the Shakti chakra, he's in control of his vrittis of the mind. He is the one who can be the cause, positive cause, contributor for emergence of the Jnana Shakti in you. Now, look at the interpretations of different scholars. Avin, abhipastha, like upasthita, desastha, gramastha means you are there. So what is abhipastha? They are interpreting it. Avin, pasujanan. Avin can also mean sheep. Avin pasujanan, pati iti avipam. Pati means he's protecting, he's controlling. Very much like Jesus, shepherd. Pati pasujanan, pati iti avipam. So avipa word, avipastha. Avipam is the one who controls this pasujanan. Maheshwaradi Sakti Mandalam Kavargadi Adhishtatriyaha Rasmi Rupa Debyo Bhavanti. So he says, what is this Pashu thing? You have the Shakti chakras, and they are called the mothers of the Pasus, means the Agyani Purushas. He is in control of Shakti chakra. He's trying to bring it, and he's bringing it through the word Avin. Avin means Pasu. So he's a master of these Pasus. Why? He's controlling the mind. Who is a Pasu? Not a physical beast. It's a state of the mind. What is that state of the mind? Which runs around after Vishayas, objects of pleasure and pain outside, runs away from objects of pain and runs towards objects of pleasure, and all the time wanders in samsara. This fellow that he is saying, avipaha, avipam, he is there in control of them. That means these buddhis. Rasmi rupa debyo bhavanti. Tasam prabhutveno yo divyati. Is the master, is the Prabhu. The one Divyati arthat sarvo ayam mad vivavati. What do you mean by Prabhu? You think, aha, I understand. My mind is dancing around. So you're sitting, you have an assignment tomorrow, you're a student, you just imagine the way you should talk to yourself. You have a very urgent examination. The mind says, I want to sleep. Sorry, I'm not going to let you sleep. You have to study. I've given you a lot of lift. Don't waste my time. Finish this chapter. What about ice cream? Sorry, no ice cream. What about a cup of coffee? No coffee. Finish this task. How are you dealing with it? You're talking to your own mind. That means you are not the mind. You're saying, I know you. That you are different from whom you are talking to, which is your mind. So this guy is self-realized, so he's at that highest level. So he's saying, I'm the boss. I know you people are going to play these games and pull me around. I'm not troubled. I recognize you. That's how he's saying, you are my energies only. And which is true. The Sakti, all these Saktis and all are Shiva Saktis. Right? This Banamatrikas is a manifestation of Lord Shiva's energies. Madhvivaviti prativigyata swaswarupa prativigyata swaswarupa vaibhavatvat sa jnana hetuhu bhavati. Because by this, when you have this realization that yes, these are part of me, these games are going to go on, this is my mind, but this is not me. When you have that remembrance, that recognition, then what happens? This is the cause of knowledge. This is the cause of ultimate awareness. Janati iti akhilam tat jnana sakti parama swatantrata. What is jnana? Is the source of our sovereignty and freedom. The one who knows is free. The one who doesn't know is the one who follows. Is the one who can be exploited. He can be controlled. Janati iti akhilam tat. It knows everything. It's just a game. It's unfolding. It's all my manner. First thing, he's inseparable from the Shiva consciousness. Parama swatantrata tasyaha hetu. It is the cause of that. Labdhastitihi yogindraha. When he attains that stage, yogindraha swajnana saktya, through his knowledge of the self, upadeshan, by giving advice, mumukshu purushan, the person who wants liberation, swatmanam prativijnapaitum cha nishchayena samartho bhavati. He without fail is able to remind you of your energies and your truth, and then enables you to find liberation through self-knowledge. Kingba, another interpretation. Pasu pramatri adhishthanashu, all the pasu pramatri adhishthanas, all these pasu mataraha. Maheshwaradi matrika sakti chakreshu, all this Maheshwari and all that. You have these matrika chakras. Tat chakreshwara atma eva praspurati. Who is the chakreshwara? He's saying that a person you remember in the Saktopaya, we have dealt with it, that he becomes chakreshwara. He is the controller of these energies. So a good tantric, what does he do? He runs away or anything? No, he's in sansar. He knows how these secrets are happening. He's playful. He participates in it. And Thakur had given a beautiful example to one of the businessmen who said how to deal with samsara. He took him during when Ganges was in spate, and he saw one elephant was struggling to move forward. And then he said, look at the fish. It's having good fun. It's not fighting with samsara. The tiger is trying to fight the flooding water. He's struggling. The fish playing in that flooding water. So this is the kind of chakreshwara is in control of it. Then chakreshwara atma eva praspurati. Atma jnana pradane asamartha, to the person who is unable to transfer this atma jnana, sakti mandalena paratantri kritatvataha. And then he is himself a victim of the Sakti chakra. What he is going to give you? And all the time these commentators give you, it's like a blind man leading another blind person. He's saying paratantri krutatvataha swatmani eva asamarthaha. He's not being able to lift himself, realize himself. How can he liberate you? San paran kathang prativijnapayet. How can he remind others about what is their swarupa when he is struggling himself? It's like a person who is getting drowned in the river, in a flooding river. He's himself in a whirlpool. He's trying to save somebody else also in a whirlpool. Both are going to get drowned. Ateva yaha avipasta bhavati, the person who is the master of these Shakti Chakras, sa eva atmajnana pradani hetur bhavati, he is the one who can give you atmajnana. Tatah eva jnanam atmajnanam iti purvasutrena sadhu katita. Therefore, the person who gives atmajnana is the one who is Shivatulya. That's what was mentioned earlier, which is perfect. Now, we have dealt with it. There are a couple of other contradictory interpretations, and we'll take it up and move forward in our next class. We have just touched the timeline. Any question or any doubt? Do you have any questions, any of you? Or we'll do the Shanti Mantra? Okay, let's do the Shanti Mantra.